Mr. Barrett, go ahead, please.
Well, thanks very much, Chair. I want to share with the committee an example of real-life disinformation, and it's been propagated by Ms. Khalid and her colleagues. Disinformation while talking about disinformation. And so I'm going to share from a Canadian Press story from August 28th, 2024, and it deals exactly with some of the contents of the motion and what Ms. Khalid's been talking about before. And it reads, there is no evidence that indicates the federal Conservatives were behind a bot network on social media that praised a Pierre Poilievre rally, a new study has found. The Canadian Digital Media Research Network launched an investigation after hundreds of X accounts posted about the Conservative leader's July rally in Kirkland Lake, Ontario, all using the same language with phrases like buzzing with energy and as a Northern Ontarian. The fact that the posts were so similar immediately raised questions about who was behind the network of bots, with the NDP and Liberals pointing the fingers at Conservatives. The Conservative Party denied having any involvement. Results from the investigation were published on Wednesday. And I'll quote, despite this significant speculation-associated accusations, we find no evidence that indicates a political party or foreign entity employed this bot network for political purpose, said Angus Bridgman, director of the Media Ecosystem Observatory and a contributor of the report. Instead, the researchers said they believe it was an amateur experimenting with a bot pipeline by sourcing content from news stories, and the Poilievre event was caught in the mix. The rally had been reported on in mainstream media in the days leading up to the mass posts. This is not done with intent to manipulate, it's with intent to experiment, Bridgman said. Very few Canadians saw original bot posts, and the report said their impact was considered to be insignificant, but Bridgman said the narrative about bots was hijacked. The follow-up conversation about the posts ended up getting millions of views on X and millions more through amplification by media, the report showed. Many of those posts attacked the Conservative Party and Poilievre for attempting to mislead Canadians about his popularity. Now, it says Liberal MP Mark Garrettson too pointed the finger at the Tories, claiming without evidence that the Conservative Party of Canada purchased the bots on social media. Ultimately, nearly half of the Canadians who heard about the bots believed a political party was to blame, with a vast majority of them thinking it was the actions of the Conservatives. Bridgman described the political discourse around the bot campaign as toxic and said it should serve as a lesson for future Canadian elections. And this quote's really important here. The finger-pointing without evidence is actually quite destructive and leans into the hyper-partisan, hyper-polarized information ecosystem that we find ourselves in today in Canada, end quote. So here we have the Liberal MPs who are talking about disinformation actually propagating it. They actually spread disinformation. And the false claim that they made was disproven by experts, and it went on to say, the report says that it's only because of their disinformation campaign that the effect of these bots was amplified. Hook, line, and sinker. So Ms. Khalid said that she wants to put partisan politics aside, but they've put them in the shop window. They've put them to the forefront. We heard her say, quote, we're better than this. No, they're actually not. They're actually not. They actually are called out for spreading disinformation. And let me tell you, I have a few minor amendments to the motion, but we think that this is an excellent study. We think it's terrific. I think that there's some great witnesses who are listed in this Canadian Press report. And we think that the impact of foreign interference in our democracy is it's troubling. We think that irrespective of the country, any foreign meddling in our democracy is unacceptable. And that's why we've had to drag the Liberals kicking and screaming to implement legislation like Bill C-70. Foreign interference or a foreign agent registry, my goodness, yeah. It was worse than pulling teeth to try and get the Liberals to do it. And like many such cases, we needed the FBI. We needed the FBI to tell Canadians what these Liberals denied, and actually the public safety minister, a minister in the Trudeau's Liberal government, lied about Beijing-operated Chinese police stations in Canada. He lied about it. But the FBI, again, that's disinformation.
Point of order,
misinformation.
Mr. Chair. Point of order. You can't say that a member has lied. You can't say that.
I don't think he accused a member.
Yes,
didn't.
he did.
No, I think he was just talking in
Doth thou protest too much, Mr. Fisher?
generalities. Okay, go ahead. You know the language you can use and not use.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, Mr.
For the kids, we're bringing in Shakespeare as we talk about the disinformation spread by the Liberal government, and we saw it, and that's a great example, and we're lucky to live next door to our friends in the United States, because they've provided great cover to the incompetence of these Liberals on matters of terrorism and on matters of foreign interference. We're so fortunate that they brought it to light for Canadians, because it would have died in darkness with Ms. Khalid and her colleagues. So it's we look very forward to more information about the effects of misinformation. It would be interesting to get some of the people cited in the article, not just the authors, but those who intentionally and without evidence spread false information. Like that's a damning indictment of this Liberal government after their 9 years, and they're unapologetic about it. And so, Ms. Khalid talked about wanting to strip partisan politics out of it. I have an amendment that looks to achieve some of that, and I also have an amendment that looks to solve for some of the scheduling challenges that it creates. But the quantity of the meetings is of no issue, and the broad substance of the subject is important. But my goodness, when we look at the ineptitude and failures of the Liberal government on foreign interference and their intentional spreading of disinformation and amplification of disinformation, we know that they should be more concerned about exposition potentially than foreign governments, because I think that we have domestic interference or domestic deception is a giant problem with these Liberals, who also want to seek, of course, to censor what Canadians see on the internet. So they create the disinformation, limit the channels or the way that Canadians can receive it, and then say that anything that's offside with their narrative is a lie, when in fact we've seen countless examples that these Liberals are in fact the perpetrators of the very thing that they claim to detest. So it's very timely that we're going to deal with this. So I think that's important that we do it.